In this lecture, you're going to learn how to install Django and create your first Django project. So here on the command line or terminal, let's create a new directory called vidly. That is the name of our imaginary video rental application. Okay, now let's go in this directory and install Django using pipenv. So pipenv install Django. And let's set the version to 2.1 to make sure we're using the exact same version so there are no surprises later on as you go through the videos. Okay, let's go ahead. Beautiful. Now we need to activate our virtual environment. That is pretty easy. So pipenv shell. Okay, as you can see, the virtual environment for this project is activated. Beautiful. So next we're going to use a tool called Django admin for creating a new Django project. So let's run Django-admin start project. We're going to call this project vidly, and we want to create it in the current directory. So let's add a period at the end. When we run this command, Django admin is going to create a basic website with some boilerplate code. You're going to see that in a second. So let's go ahead. Beautiful. Now let's open this in VS Code. So code period. All right, here's what we got. Django admin created this vidly directory as well as this manage.py file. We use this manage.py to perform some administrative tasks such as starting our web server or migrating our database, populating it with data, and so on. You're going to learn about this as we go through these tutorials. Now, what is this vidly directory? And why do we have two vidly directories? The outer one and the inner one. Well, the outer one is the one that we created, and that's the container for this project. The inner one is simply a package that is essentially the core of our project. It has a bunch of settings, and that's where everything gets started. So what do we have here? We have init.py. You have seen this before. This tells Python to treat this directory as a package. Below that, we have settings.py. And in this file, we have various configuration settings for our project. Next, we have URLs, and this is where we define various URL endpoints for our application. And finally, we have WSGI, which is short for Web Server Gateway Interface. The purpose of this file is to represent a standard interface between applications written in Python and web servers. That is an advanced topic and goes beyond the scope of this tutorial. So for now, don't worry about it. Now we're going to use this manage.py to start our development web server. So open up manage.py. Now with our Python code open in VS Code, we can select our Python interpreter. So click this Python on the status bar. This is the Python interpreter that is installed globally. We need to change this to the Python interpreter installed in our virtual environment. That is this one here. We get this familiar message, linter pylint is not installed. So let's go ahead and install that. All right, now in this terminal window with vidly virtual environment activated, let's run Python or Python 3, manage.py, run server. Now by default, this is going to start a development server on port 8000. If you have an application that is already listening on that port, you can specify a different port number here. In this tutorial, I'm going to go with the standard port. So let's run this. Okay, you get this warning. You have 15 unapplied migrations. Don't worry about that. We're going to get to that shortly. So as you can see, we have a web server listening at this address, and we can stop it at any time by pressing Ctrl+C. So now let's navigate to this address. All right, here's our first Django project. Beautiful. Over the next few lectures, we're going to modify this application bit by bit and implement our imaginary video rental application.